and thanks for joining in on One Last Round podcast. I am your host, Will Martinez, and thanks for joining in on the podcast tonight. This is our very first episode of the podcast, so thanks for joining in, and we hope to bring you a very, very special episode, number one for us. So, and I have my co-host on the line with us, Jay Galosi. Jay, what's up, man? What's going on, man?
Oh, just enjoying life, my friend. Episode numero uno. It's going to be good.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be real good, man. And we're going to have a lot to talk about tonight, man. There's a lot that's going on in the world of MMA. And that's what this podcast is about, just to, clarify for everybody if anybody has any, interest or doubts as what we're doing here. But we're, really trying to get into the world of MMA. We're talking about, every aspect of it, every, federation, whether it be UFC, Bellator, Ryzen, you name it, we're going to be talking about it. So we just hope to be entertaining here in the process for you guys. So me and Jay just hope to be able to do that for you guys. I just want to remind everybody about the social media. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at One Last Round Podcast. Just look up One Last Round Podcast. You'll be able to find all our information there, all our daily posts, when we're going to be posting a new show and all that. So make sure you check that out. And if you want to send us an email, you can send that to onelastraundpodcast@gmail.com. Actually, that's onelastraundpodcast@gmail.com. So yeah, I said it right the first time. So I just wanted to give all that information out to everybody as well. You can find this podcast as well on YouTube. All you have to do is look up One Last Round Podcast, and we're going to have a live episode for you guys every week. So, well, Jay, we have a lot to talk about this week, man. There's a lot of things that are going on, man. A lot of things, a lot of breaking news, a lot of things that are getting clarified in the world of MMA as far as questions are concerned. One of the very first things that I want to kind of bring up was the announcement of Diaz and Dustin Poirier for UFC 230 in Madison Square Garden. What did you think about that?
Oh, I think that's going to be a great fight. I'm very excited about that. I know it's the main event, the big card. The rest of the fights, I've looked at some of the other fights on that card too. That's going to be a pretty decent card and end off with a Nate Diaz versus Dustin Diamond Poirier. Poirier. That's going to be a good fight, Diaz has had a long layoff. It's been a few years. So the big question really will be, what kind of ring rust does he have, or is he going to suffer from ring rust? Some guys, it's a state of mind. Some guys, it's real. And some guys it doesn't affect at all, like GSP. GSP came back and fucked up Michael Bisping with no ring rust at all. That might be Diaz. Diaz is a tank. Both those Diaz brothers, it's one of the things that you see. As the fight goes on, it gets more and more and more intense. For me, I honestly think that it's so hard to pick against the Diaz brother, but I'm going to pick Dustin over him because I ultimately think Dustin's a little more polished. He's still a little more current. He's a little bit younger. There's a lot more tread on those tires. But he's going to have to do it within the first 3 rounds because those 4th and 5th rounds, the Diaz is almost always take.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, and a thing to keep in mind, and we're going to discuss this at the end of the podcast. This is actually one of the the crux of tonight's podcast. Tonight is we're going to talk about that particular card, and it's actually not the main event. It's actually further down in the card, believe it or not. And so we're going to be talking about in a little bit here about how or what we think could actually be for the main event in that card. And if it's not that fight, then what the hell could it be? So we're going to speculate about all the possible scenarios that can kind of fit into that slot for UFC 230. So yeah, and again, what you're saying, Jay, yeah, of course, Diaz is known for his tank. Those guys are cardio machines. Him and his brother, Nate and Nick. I mean, they're just absolute animals, and it's going to be a great fight. I'm going to go against you on this one, though, Jay. I don't think Poirier has a chance. I mean, He's got a puncher's chance, but I don't think that he'll be able to get off his offense like he used to with the flurry of Nate Diaz just throwing straight punches down the middle.
It's a possibility. Like I said, it's hard to pick against the Diaz. They both are tough as nails. They get stronger as the rounds go. The only thing that leads me to lean a little bit more towards, I'm going to keep throwing a T in there and call him Portier. I know it's not. It's Poirier. The thing that leads me to lean a little bit more for Diamond would be the sheer fact is he's been current. He's been fighting. He hasn't taken the kind of layoff that Diaz has. So the real question will be is how long or how will those 2 years away affect Diaz?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're absolutely right. You can't deny the fact that having a 2-year layoff is going to be is going to affect him in some way. That inactivity, no matter who you are, is going to affect you in some way. Unless you're an anomaly, of course, like you said, GSP, but he's an anomaly in itself. So you really can't count that. But yeah, it's going to affect you in a lot of ways. But again, he's known for his tank, but he's also known not to be in the best physical condition. But let's see how he plays this out. So very interesting thing to think about. That actually kind of segues into my next item that I wanted to kind of bring up. Since we kind of figured out at that press conference that Nate Diaz is going to be fighting Poirier. Now that kind of leaves the answer to what was the next announcement. That was the huge announcement last week that Khabib Nurmagomedov is going to be fighting McGregor, and that's going to be happening at UFC 229 in October. So that is something that a lot of people did not see happening as quick as it was announced. Many people speculated that this fight may take place during the end of the year, maybe at New Year's Eve or maybe around Christmas time. But nevertheless, they announced it. It's happening October 6th. Khabib versus McGregor. What's your thoughts, Jay? I mean, it's actually happening, man.
I knew it was going to happen. I had a feeling it was going to happen sooner than later for a bunch of reasons. First off, McGregor hasn't been in an octagon since before he got in the squared circle against what the fuck? I'm having a total brain fart.
Mayweather.
Jesus, thank you.
Yes.
He hasn't done anything aside from throw a dolly through a bus window since. That. So here's the thing, okay? He's a huge draw. He is still really the top name, if not one of the top 3 names in the UFC. And the UFC makes money when McGregor fights. Khabib being 26-0 right now and pretty much dispatching almost everybody in a really convincing fashion. He's a star on the rise, and McGregor is, while he's in the atmosphere all his own, the UFC makes money when he fights. And the UFC is a business. And at the end of the day, they are all about making money. It's like you hear Jimmy Johnson, when he was coaching the Cowboys, talk about how everybody's treated the same but different. Yes, he has the same rules for everybody, but chances are if Troy Aikman comes in, isn't feeling quite right, and takes a nap during a film session, he's not going to call him out. But you bet that third-string quarterback who hasn't done anything to prove his cloud comes in and falls asleep, and he's going to yell at him. He's going to kick his ass out and probably cut him from the team. Same thing going on here. McGregor is on a level all his own. A handful of guys, maybe John Jones, is that kind of stupid talented to where they do things you just kind of have to go, all right, it's part of the character. It's part of what makes them great. It's part of why we pay so much to see them fight. So I wasn't surprised it happened quick. Khabib was looking for the next big thing. He's got the interim belt. There's a good story there because McGregor was stripped of the belt, and it fit.
And not only was he
You had
stripped of the belt, McGregor went crazy because of Khabib's team cornering one of McGregor's guys during that fight where McGregor came and went all fucking haywire. And dude went and told McGregor, and McGregor blew a gasket. Now he has this thing against Khabib. Now, there's a big backstory behind this. And that's what led to the whole bus, incident.
Well, and that's the thing. So there's a storyline to it, right? I was watching a Bellator rerun just last night. It was Bellator in Rome. I can't tell you exactly when it happened, or it was, let's say it was maybe a few months ago. It took place. Either way, and I saw one of the nastiest liver kicks. Just side note, nastiest liver kicks. End of the fight right there. Either way. But you watch, and you can see that the level of talent in Bellator isn't far off the UFC. But what they don't have are storylines.
Yeah.
They don't have these things that draw you in that make the fight so much more interesting than just two badass dudes in a cage ready to fuck each other up, which is entertaining and interesting enough, at least for me. But you add in these things, the background between Khabib and Conor, the difference in style that is so profound. The difference in personalities is profound.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And
I can't wait for the shit talking.
see, now here's the thing, right? Because Khabib doesn't really talk shit. But what he says, when he says things, it's like, did you hear what he said? Somebody asked him about his last fight, because he was supposed to fight Ferguson, who got hurt. So last second they changed it to Al Quinta.
Right.
Did you hear what he said about Al Quinta?
No, what did he say?
He was like, I appreciate him taking the fight on such short notice. I have a lot of respect for him. But he's not going to be the same ever again after this fight.
Ugh.
Like, there's shit talking, and then there's that.
That's that, like, third world, like, mentality. You know what I mean? Like, that's that.
I'll crush your head like fiddlesticks.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's some crazy shit, man. So, yeah, Conor McGregor is going to do the Conor McGregor. He's going to floss over him. Who the fuck is that guy? Like, this is the kind of shit that Conor McGregor is going to do. He's going to be loud. He's going to push it. And I don't see Khabib really playing into it. Khabib's going to just sit there, quiet and stone-faced, and just say things when he has to, like, you're never going to be right after this fight.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, when somebody says stuff like that, you have to take it to heart, man. You really do. But it's going to be a great fight. I can't wait to see what happens.
God!
I can't wait for the shit talking. I can't wait for everything. The whole thing. From beginning to end. It's just going to be a fantastic card, and I can't wait for it to happen. Well, let's move on. Let's get this show on the road, Jay, and let's talk about UFC 227 that happened just past weekend. What a great card, man. Did you catch this card at all?
Oh, I call it. I didn't catch the prelims.
Uh-huh.
I was having an issue trying to find the prelims, watch the prelims, stream the prelims. There were some extracurricular issues that were kind of getting in the way. But I did catch the main card, and oh my God, what an entertaining card.
Yeah, it was absolutely entertaining. It definitely lived up to the hype, and man, it was just a crazy fight all around. And let's break it down, man. Let's start off with the first fight of the night, and that was a women's fight. I think that was Polyana
Viviana versus J.J. Aldrich.
That's correct, man. And did you catch this fight at all?
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I saw it.
What a one-sided fight, huh?
Yeah. She messed her up pretty good. Kind of going into it, it looked like Polyana was a little bit more favored.
Yeah, she was,
because she had a few more fights under her belt. She's done some impressive things. But J.J. Aldrich, she had the plan. She knew exactly what to do. she knew how to come in, and she went in and did what she had to do pretty flawlessly.
Yeah, no, she did. And I have this theory about women fighters. As tough as they may be, I always pick the girl that is not as pretty as the other one. I don't know. Is that wrong of me? I don't know, man.
um,
Is that me? Is that
I
wrong?
mean,
I mean, am I wrong for saying that? But I mean, and
you know what?
and I was
I don't
right on
know
this
because
one.
I don't know because you could make the argument that depending on the particular lighting and what angle you look at Ronda Rousey, she's not terribly ugly. She was a badass fighter for quite some time.
Yeah, no,
But then you look at some of
she is. She's a good-looking woman. You know what I mean? And you have like your Kat Zanganos of the world, where she's not a bad-looking woman either. And there are a couple other ones, but man, I just I have
I'm with you, man.
that's my
No,
thing,
I'm
man.
with you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have to, but yeah, it was an entertaining fight. It was a one-sided fight. JJ did a great job. She pretty much handled her, and it was pretty much done from the beginning. It was a pretty one-sided, lopsided fight, and great to see a women's fight put on a good show like that. And next one on the card was Thiago Santos versus Kevin Holland. Did you see this one at all, Jay? What did you think about this one?
I did, and I was totally wrong. I remember when we picked fights. We picked the fights because just so everybody knows, this is actually the second take we've done of our first episode.
That's correct.
And we picked some of these fights, and I picked Kevin Holland to beat Thiago Santos, and I was wrong. I was dead wrong. Thiago Santos set the pace the entire time. He did anything he wanted with Kevin Holland, and Thiago Santos is an experienced fighter. He's really proficient, both in standing and on ground. And he took Kevin Holland to the woodshed and proved that Kevin Holland, while his record at 12-4, it's not a bad record in the UFC. He still has a lot more learning to do before he gets on quite a level of up at Thiago Santos.
Yeah, Thiago, ranked 13th, in the world right now. I mean, just a whole world, I think, a light year ahead of Kevin Holland as far as experience goes. Thiago has this crazy, knockout ratio, at 72% or something like that, which is absolutely nuts. And, he wasn't able to knock out Kevin Holland, but he sure as hell, man, he swarmed him and overtook him in every moment that he can in this fight. Showed his experience, and, Kevin Holland took the big loss on that one. So, good fight.
Kevin Holland looked overwhelmed.
He did.
He looked mentally, because I remember I want to say it was late in the second round, and I knew we still had about a little more than a round left to go, and you could just look on his face and know that mentally he was defeated.
Yeah, he definitely was defeated. I mean, you could see it in his face, like you said. I mean, overwhelmed from the beginning. But a great fight for Santos, and basically giving him another, a great, performance to, show that he could maybe, give the guy a chance and give him maybe a top 10, tier fighter. Let him move up in the ranks and give him a shot. So, next one on the card, Jay, which, man, I tell you what, heartbreaking for me, man. Cub Swanson versus Renato Moicano. It was a great fight and quick. It was very quick as well. And
it was.
Yeah. Number ranked 5 fighter Cub Swanson versus number ranked 10 Renato Moicano, man. And man, Cub Swanson. The thing is with Cub, I like him as a fighter. I really, really do. I think he's one of the most gifted fighters in the UFC. I think that he's always had that issue, though, of winning like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 fights in a row. And then all of a sudden, man, when it gets to
has a stinker.
Yeah, he just has a stinker, man. And this was it, man. Against, ranked the top 10, fighter, number 10. And, man, gets knocked out in the first round. I mean, what do you think?
Well, Renato Moicano is no slouch by any means.
No, by no means.
Not by any means at all. With Cub, that's the thing. You're right. He's super talented. His striking is really, really good. His ground game's not bad either.
No,
But when you're going up against a Renato Moiciano,
yeah, and I'm
I mean,
sorry.
the guy is
Let me interrupt. I
he's
said
he's
knockout. I said
good.
knockout, but it was actually a submission.
It's submission.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was a
I
rear
was getting
naked.
there.
Yeah, I know, and I'm sorry. That
I
was
was
my fault. But go ahead.
I was gonna hook you up, brother. But when you're talking about someone of his ability on the ground, um, Cub needs to be better prepared than he was for it, and I think that's majorly what happened. Was he was almost surprised, which is crazy because Cubs had like 30 some odd fights. But he got caught with something, and you get a guy who's as good a grappler as Renato is, and there's a chance you're going to get caught if you're a little sluggish, a little slotchish, if you're not catching it, if you're not on point with your ground stuff, with at least your ground defense. Chances are that's how it's going to end, and that's how it ended.
Yeah, it sure did. And poor Cub, Cub, man, I'm telling you, just like I said before, he just gets to a point where you just think he's going to pass that tipping point where he's going to contend for a title shot or something like that and just loses, man, every time. And it's just fucking heartbreaking. But, that's, the story of Cub Swanson, unfortunately. So, which brings us to the co-main event of the evening, Jay, which was a fucking brutal battle back and forth between Demetrius Johnson, the champion, obviously number one ranked, and number one ranked Henry Cejudo. And it is a 5-round battle to the end, man. And these guys went back and forth. And to me, I don't know, man. I don't think the judging was right on this one. What do you think?
Oh, I think judging was right on it.
You think so?
Absolutely. Listen, I was pulling for Mighty Mouse. He's one of my all-time favorite fighters. I picked him going into this fight.
Yeah.
As like 98% of everybody did. And I believe he won the first and the third round. The second round is really where you could. The second round could have gone either way.
Yes.
Because Demetrius was more efficient with his strikes. His leg kicks were on point. He was definitely wearing Cejudo down with it. But at the end of the day, because the UFC point system is the way it is, when you can take someone down and have control, and there's plenty of times where Henry would take Demetrius down and he would pop right back up, or find his way back up really quickly. But in that second round, close to the end of the second round, Henry had gotten his first takedown and held him down for a bit, and that's where I believe the judges kind of swayed that way, because that shows an ability to impose your will, that shows an ability to control the fight and control the other fighter. And I know Demetrius Johnson broke his foot at some point along in the match, which definitely made those rounds 4 and 5 harder for him, especially with takedown defense, especially with someone of Henry Cejudo's wrestling pedigree. You need to be 110% going in there, because otherwise that's what's going to happen. You're going to get taken down. He's going to put you on the ground. He's going to hold you. He's going to dominate you that way. And that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, listen, I mean, his foot being broken was a huge disadvantage for him, obviously. And listen, those are things like that happen in a fight. You know what I mean? You can't say, oh, well, that's the only reason why he lost that fight. Hey, listen, it could have happened to the other guy the other way around. Is as easy as that too, right? So you can't you can't throw that into the mix. But he did have that disadvantage, and like you said, when you're going against a wrestler like Henry Cejudo, you have to move around. You can't move around with the broken foot. You know what I mean? You're trying to move around with a broken wheel and trying to sprawl or move out of the way or avoid a takedown. You're just not going to be able to do that. So, yeah, maybe him taking him down and holding him down. Yeah, maybe he was resting. Maybe whatever the case may be. I don't know, but I don't think I don't know, man. I don't think the
I
judges
don't
had it right on this one, man. But it was so
I don't
close.
think he was wrestling. Like that's the other thing. When someone like Henry Cejudo puts you on the ground and they suffocate you on top,
Yeah.
like there's no rest. There's no rest there. I've wrestled with some pretty top shelf dudes. When they put you on the ground and they're on top of you, feeling their weight, even though you might be on the bottom, you have trouble breathing. That makes it that much more exhausting. It's not a cakewalk when you're on bottom.
No, it's not.
Even in good defense, you'll see some of these jiu-jitsu guys like almost cross their legs, like they put their ankle kind of up on their knee,
Yeah.
almost as if they're sitting there like sipping coffee.
Yeah.
Trust me, that's a show. It's not really easy. They're under there. You can't breathe. You got some sweaty dude on top of you, just trying to suffocate you in sweat and skin and muscle, and it's fun to be under there. So my belief is if Demetrius Johnson was 110%, I think he would have won that fight, because I don't think that 4 and 5 would have gone the ways that they did. But I commend Henry Cejudo because he came in with a better game plan. He came in much more prepared than he did the first time against Demetrius Johnson. And ultimately, I felt like he dominated that fight. It was close, but at every little turn when I thought Demetrius Johnson was starting to kind of work his way back out of that kind of pit he was in, Henry Cejudo would take him down and hold him there. And to me, that's important. I mean, ultimately, UFC is a fight. It's a fight.
Yeah.
You say it's martial arts, combat sport, blah, blah, blah. It's a fight. At the end of the day, he who controls the fight wins it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I give you that 100%. So listen, that brings us to the main event of the evening, man. And what a main event it was. And it definitely lived up to the hype of a main event of any. And it's TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt. And man, did you see it going this way at all, man? First round knockout like that?
Yeah, I called it.
Yeah, you called it, right? That's true. You did call it.
I called it.
He did
I called it because
Uh-huh.
if you remember when we talked about it in Take 1, Episode 1, it's probably going to be in the Lost Archive, like all those Star Trek episodes nobody saw about the tribbles.
It's with the Zapruder tapes, like the guy who shot JFK and all that shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's going to be filed away with the videos, the home videos of FDR in his wheelchair that he never let be released to the public. Like, that's where it's going to end up being. So I remember we talked about it, and I had said that because Dillashaw and Garbrandt at one point were sparring partners, and in that first fight, when you saw Cody knock down TJ, he watched that. He knew the count of the kick. He knew after the kick where TJ was going to be, and he unloaded with him with that right hand. And Cody Garbrandt's got knockout power. There's no doubt to it. That man's striking is on point with just about anybody currently fighting in the UFC not named Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Like, his striking is on point. Here's the thing. TJ Dillashaw makes angles. I believe TJ Dillashaw is a better in-ring fighter. He's proved it twice now.
Yeah, and those hands are unbelievable. And, he trains with Bang Ludwig. And, man, I tell you, Ludwig, man, has this way of training people and opening up their hands to unbelievable lengths of potential, man. And he did that with Dillashaw. I mean, Dillashaw wasn't a guy known for knockout power, until maybe about 3, 4, 5 fights ago.
Well, that's the thing, all right? So you take this, and this is what you find with a lot of the really successful UFC fighters. Going all the way back to, fucking Matt Hughes, right? You take a wrestler, a solid wrestler, a really top-shelf wrestler, Ben Askren, Matt Hughes. I mean, you could run down a list of the national wrestling champions that have held a belt in UFC, and they all did the same thing. They were a solid base of wrestler. who learned how to strike. And that's what happened with TJ Dillashaw. He's a top shelf wrestler. A lot of people forget how good wrestler he was. And then he moves from Team Alpha Dog to where he is now, and his striking becomes this he doesn't need to work as much on the wrestling as he used to, so he can really focus on the striking in a way that not a lot of other fighters can. But he still comes at it almost from like that wrestler, like he circles. He doesn't move forward, he circles. He finds his angles of shots. Whether he's jabbing or kicking, he finds the angle that's going to give him the highest probability for contact. And then he unloads. And that's ultimately what has helped him beat Garbrandt twice. Is Garbrandt, as good as he is, hasn't really improved. He hasn't gotten any. He went in there trying to prove something, but he tried to prove something doing what he did in the first fight. Sizing up TJ and trying to unload on with that right hand. And what happened was TJ counted that step. He knew when that right hand was going to come, and he caught him. And he caught him with that fucking hook.
Yeah, he did. He caught him really, flush with that hook, man, and it was over, man. And the champ retains, man. I mean, that's it. I don't think there's going to be another fight. There's no need for another fight at this point. That's 2 in Dillashaw's favor at this point, and that's it. So, great outing by TJ, and sorry, the luck of Cody on this one sucks, but man, that's the way it goes, man. There has to be a loser, to these fights. But yeah, what a great showing by TJ, and man, what a great fight overall. The card was unbelievable from top to bottom. So that wraps it up for UFC 227. And one thing I wanted to talk about tonight, Jay, before we let everybody go, was UFC 230, and that's coming up. That was announced by the UFC. Nate Diaz is going to be fighting Dustin Poirier, but they're not the main event. They are not the main event.
They're not. I was mistaken on that one. That was my bad.
No, and that's fine. But that begs the question: what is a good fight to put in that slot? I mean, what is a bigger fight than Poirier and Diaz that will be a headline of that potential? I mean, and not only that, the card itself below that is a fucking stacked card. So what could be a potential super fight that could be put in that place?
Well, you have to think of who is available to fight, who hasn't fought in quite some time, who is a big name. You have like a Tyron Woodley. Woodley hasn't fought in quite a bit.
That's true.
You have Max Holloway.
Right.
Everybody was waiting for Max Holloway to fight in this last UFC.
Well, that's actually one fight that I wanted to bring up. Max Holloway versus Brian Ortega. Why can't that fight happen now?
Oh, it absolutely can. And I think that's a very interesting fight, because I think you have Max Holloway, who is a striker. I mean, that man is a stand-up phenom. Versus Ortega, who is a grappler's grappler. That guy's ground game is on point to a level that very few is. So you really, again, you had that mix of styles, but Ortega's striking has really improved, and that guy will shock the world. As good as Max Holloway is, and I always root for Max Holloway. I love Max Holloway. I don't think I can choose him against Ortega. So there's no reason why that fight can't happen again. But you also have guys like Tony Ferguson. We're waiting to see Tony Ferguson come back.
Yeah, but Tony's going to be out for a little longer than a couple months. I think he's not cleared till at least February. So I think he's out of the picture as far as this is concerned. But yeah, I mean, why can't Holloway be, healthy by November? By all accounts, he should be, you know what I mean? And if he can, that'd be a great fight to headline that card. I mean, those two guys, everybody's been waiting to see that fight. And so I can't wait to see if they actually pull the trigger on that one. But yeah, that's one to definitely think about. How about this one, Jay? How about GSP versus Anderson Silva? What do you think about that?
It doesn't excite me.
It doesn't excite you, huh?
It doesn't excite me, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. A, GSP has already said he's not going to fight anybody, but like his next fight, he wants to fight the winner between Khabib and McGregor. Whoever wins that fight, he is going to fight and probably fuck up because he's GSP.
Well, I mean, interesting, question to ask because Anderson's coming off that USADA suspension. He'll be off by October. That clears a way for him to be ready by November. So they could possibly set this up. I mean, this was a super fight they were talking about many moons ago before GSP retired. And
yeah, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
Since those many moons, okay, GSP took that time off, came back to beat Michael Bisping, who I know you don't like Michael Bisping, but you got to give the guy credit. He's tough as nails, and GSP owned his ass after a 4-year layoff.
Yes, he did.
Look at Silva's last 2 opportunities really in the main card, both against Chris Weidman. Now, one was an injury you can't foresee, that when he shattered the lower half of his leg, like, that's a damn shame. But then when he came back, Chris Weidman knocked him the fuck out.
Yeah.
He doesn't move the way he used to. He doesn't project the skill and fear that he used to.
Right.
I don't think that's an entertaining fight. I genuinely think that GSP goes in there and strikes him until Anderson Silva is dead.
Yeah, listen, that could possibly well happen. I mean, just for maybe super card fight scenarios, this would be a good fight just to see. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to have a novelty fight like this after a fucking stacked card as it is already. But how about this another scenario? How about Chris Cyborg versus Emmanuel Nunes?
Now, that would be a really good fight. That would really be a really good fight. The bigger question you got to ask, though, when it comes to Cyborg, first, nobody wants to fight her in MMA anymore.
No.
Because at the end of the day, she's 185 pounds, and she's a dude. Like,
I didn't say that, you did, but yes.
Yeah, listen, I will say it because I'm afraid of her. I will tell her to her face.
There's a peepee.
You will punch me.
There's a peepee down there somewhere.
You will punch me 6 feet deep, and that's the way it is because you don't fight like a woman, you fight like a dude. Sounds sexist. I'm not really trying to be sexist by it, but there's a different style and fight. Like, women are generally more vicious fighters.
Yes, that's true.
Guys tend to be more tank about it. Like, we kind of just get in front of the person and we go to blows, we take downs, we do those things. Girls have this additional, like, just rage, and Cyborg's got kind of both.
Yeah, she does.
That's scary. That's some crazy shit. So that would be a good fight. I don't know. The other question is, you're putting them in at like 145, yeah?
Yeah, it'd have to be at a higher catch weight. Yeah, definitely, because
is Cyborg genuinely going to be able to make that?
I don't know, man. She had a tough time last time, man. She said that she was on the brink of just like not being able to perform at all. So these weight cuts, man. You've seen it. You've seen how it wreaks havoc on these fighters, and it can really wreck a card really bad, man. You saw what happened to Max Holloway. It's happened to Khabib. It's happened to so many, and we've seen. And it's
well, look at if you look at it, prime example. We just had it in 226, right?
Yeah.
Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier has been fighting at light heavyweight, and while he ruled light heavyweight minus George Jones, which again, as I said in the lost tapes, John Jones is a fucking extraterrestrial that defies all logic and scientific. Like, there's MMA math, and then there's John Jones. You can't. There's no middle ground with that.
Yeah.
But what happens? He goes in. He goes up to heavyweight. He doesn't have to worry about the weight cut. He can just focus on fighting. He goes against Stipe Miocic, who was considered the best heavyweight of all time because he had retained that thing more than anybody else.
That's right.
And beat guys like Francis Ngannou, who was a nightmare for anybody. And Stipe took his best shot.
Not only that, he took his soul from him as well. He's not
He
been
did.
the same fighter after that.
And then what happened? Cormier knocked him out in the first fucking round.
Exactly. There you go. Well, speaking of
Like,
Cormier, this
go ahead.
this brings another scenario to the whole mix. How about Cormier Gustafsson?
That's too early. I think it's too early.
You think it's too early?
Cormier just fought. Cormier called out Brock Lesnar.
Yes, he
Cormier's
did.
not gonna put that belt up against Gustafsson. Gustafsson. He's not gonna put it up against him because it's not a big enough name. It's not a big enough draw.
Well,
That-
Cormier did say
but-
that he has only one more fight left in him, or maybe two. This could, be so, because Lesnar's not going to be cleared till February from, USADA. Right. So, it's something that it's kind of interesting, because, if they do fight, it won't be until maybe February, March. That leaves 6 months open. I mean, it's a light heavyweight fight. If he wins, he wins. He keeps it, great. Or if he loses the light heavyweight and he still has the heavyweight title. And, he goes off with a bang with Brock Lesnar there at the end. Who knows? But, do you think it might be a possibility or no?
I don't think so. I don't think so for this main reason. If you watch this last season of The Ultimate Fighter, Daniel Cormier mentioned a lot of times through it that, he's getting to a certain age where he doesn't want to fight the way he wants to just sit back and eat ice cream.
Yeah.
He wants to have breakfast with his kids. He doesn't want to be trying to fight a weight cut. He doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to deal with that. I honestly don't know if we ever see Daniel Cormier fight light heavyweight again.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I don't think so. I think ultimately that belt is going to go back up for dibs, and you're going to end up having an interim until you have a true light heavyweight champion. So I guess the real next question is if Gustafsson, because he's really the next in line for light heavyweight, who's Gustafsson going to fight? Well, let's think about this.
Yeah,
where's 230 being held?
Mm-hmm.
It's being held at the MSG.
Right.
Who's been a fighter who's going to be available because he's been out for some time and is from New York and would get a big stir? Who would that be? Well, that would be John Bones Jones.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this, man. And the thing is that the USADA thing is still up in the air. So if that gets cleared, then that leaves a way for him to get back in. I just don't know if the USADA thing is going to be cleared up by then. But that's a great fucking scenario. If that is the card, if that's the main event, my God, that card is going to be unbelievable.
Keep this in mind, okay? What did we talk about almost at the very beginning of the podcast, though? We're talking about Khabib McGregor. You were shocked that it happened so fast because why? Because McGregor may have ended two people's fighting careers by throwing a dolly through a bus window. What does that tell you about the UFC? The UFC is a business. It's about making money.
That's right.
What's going to make more money at 230 than John Jones, Gustafsson 2 for an interim light heavyweight title?
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be unbelievable. And
their first fight was really good.
Dude, that first fight, a lot of people may have thought that John would have lost that fight, man. And John took a beating in that fight. That's probably the worst beating John Jones has ever taken in an MMA fight.
Closest fight. That's the closest fight I've seen John Jones have, and that includes both with Daniel Cormier.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, that's
a fight.
That's a fight, man. It's a fight, and we'll have to wait and see what they announce as this main event for this UFC 230. We're all excited, and we're all waiting to see what this will bring for us in November. But a lot of great things happening in the world of MMA. That brings it for a wrap for this week, Jay. Anything else you wanted to kind of bring up for the podcast this week?
You know what? I touched on it for just a minute, and I'm going to bring it back up only because I think people need to see it. If you have Xfinity, you can go on demand. However you need to do it. Find Bellator in Rome, Italy. Watch some of those fights. A lot of them were first-round KOs, which does get a bit long in the tooth because you can tell a level of difference between the two. But there was this one fight with this one cross-eyed Russian, and he was fighting a guy called the Psychopath. He was 4 feet tall, The fight it was obvious who was going to win that fight. But this liver kick that dude put on him is one of the best of all time. And if you go and watch it, I promise you're going to be entertained by that kick and that kick alone. And then the main card, the main fight, was a really good fight, too, between two guys who had met once before. And I couldn't tell you the names right this particular minute. But go look it up. It wasn't a bad card. That one kick and the main fight, great ones. Bellator and Rome. Otherwise, that's all I got.
Awesome, brother. Well, listen, I wanted to kind of bring something for somebody to watch, for anybody to watch, actually. But if you guys want to check out some old vintage type videos, look up Igor Vovchanchyn. And this guy, look up on YouTube, Igor Vovchanchyn fights 3 guys in one night. And this guy's a Russian guy. He's about 5'9", and he's built like a tank truck. And he's got pretty much like dynamite in his hands, and it's unbelievable. But he fights these heavyweight fighters that are about 2 feet high, taller than him, and about another 50 pounds of weight on top of him. And he's just, haymakering these guys. Unbelievable stuff. Look it up. YouTube, Igor Vovchanchyn. You guys will love it. Just check it out. Go ahead.
Have you ever seen the movie? Digstown?
Yeah. Oh, that's one of my favorite movies ever. Are you kidding me?
Oh, mine too. James Woods. Come on, as a con artist, James Woods as a con artist is the most believable act.
Oh, he looks
ever.
like a con
and then
artist.
You have what is his fucking name? Oh my god.
Come on, you know it.
Yeah, I know. See, the name I'm gonna say is not right.
No, it's
Lou
Gossett Jr.
Close. Oh.
Lou Gossett Jr.
Lou Gossett Jr.
Yes.
The juniors, I was going to say, Cuba Gooding Jr. kept coming in my mind, but I knew that wasn't him.
Wrong black guy.
From Men of Honor.
Wrong black guy.
Right, yeah. Okay, just so everybody knows, I'm not racist. I'm just stupid. So, that was one of my all-time favorite movies.
Absolutely.
And that you're talking about this Igor, that's what reminded me of, him fighting 20 guys in one night.
Oh, yeah. It's unbelievable.
Great movie.
Yeah, check it out. YouTube. Igor Vovchanchyn fights 3 heavyweights in one night. And, he puts them all the weights in about, a minute into the first round. Just unbelievable stuff. But, well, listen, that's a wrap for this week at One Last Round Podcast. I want to thank everybody so much for joining in the podcast. And please check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can catch all our episodes on YouTube. And also on Instagram as well. If you want to send us an email, you can send it to onelastraundpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's onelastraundpodcast@gmail.com. Again, I am Will Martinez for Jay Galosi. Thanks for joining in on the podcast this week. And Jay, thanks for coming on here and talking some MMA with me, man.
Oh, my pleasure. I look forward to many great podcasts with us talking about this stuff.
Awesome. Well, listen, thanks again for joining in on One Last Round Podcast. And we'll see you again next week.